This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
So when he first told me about the compensation triangle, my first thought was compensation, paycheck. Oh, we're going to talk about that potentially. Maybe raise your abundance, maybe raise your income. Well, it's not necessarily about that. It's actually something way bigger that on the back end can help you potentially increase your monetary compensation. We're going to dig into that today. This is all part of an amazing program that he's got that helps us reshape, refine, reset the way we do our things in life. It's called Intentional Achievements. The man behind that is Joe Price. He's back with us. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Steve, doing great. Great to be back with you today.
So before we get into the compensation triangle, can we pick up where we left off? Last time we were talking about the 5 shifts, and if I remember correctly, we got to all but one.
That's correct. We started out with a paradigm shift of how we see the world. Then we went to the identity shift about how we see ourselves in relation to that world. Our mindset shift is how we deal with challenges when they occur. And now the last one we deal with is the structural or environmental shift. And that I think becomes the key one for us because it's the foundation for everything. And that's how we structure our lives, right? Do we have systems in place for taking care of a lot of the things that we count ourselves capable of doing, where we spend so much time doing the work, where if we put structures and systems in place, they carry a lot of the load for us, right? So we don't have to really take on that responsibility as much.
Gotcha. So that is essentially the compensation shift.
That's true. So we have what we call the compensation triangle, and it consists of
I'm sorry,
three
I meant
C's.
triangle.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I'm stuck on the shift.
It consists of three C's: the conditions, which are the structure and the environment; the capacity, which is your ability to do things; and then the third C is the cost to us. And let me explain to you what that compensation triangle says. All of us have burdens on us all the time.
Mm.
We're trying to balance family life, work, friends, physical health, emotional health. Maybe we deal with a community or church, and we have all of this stuff on us that creates what we call a behavioral load, right? And the more heavy that load gets, what do we have a tendency to do? We have a tendency to take that load on ourselves with our own personal capacity. We think we have to work harder, we have to work longer, we have to be stronger. Where if we saw a change in our structure, a change in our conditions, the conditions themselves can bear the weight of the load instead of our personal capacity. But if we don't create systems and structure to carry that load, we have to do it ourselves. And when we do it ourselves, it has a personal cost to us over
Mm.
time that accumulates. You might relate to this because you're doing a lot of things. You've got a lot of things going on in your life, and you say, I got to handle them all. And so I have to wake up earlier, or I have to work harder, or I have to do this better. I have to study more. Coming back to our toolaholic stuff, I've got to get more apps. I got to get more tools. If I do all these things, then I'm going to be able to handle that load a little bit more efficiently. But what does it do to you personally over time? It makes you more tired. It makes things harder. It feels heavier.
Impacts
It
your health.
it impacts your health. right? It impacts your ability to respond rather than instead of reacting, right? Because we don't have as much mental capacity to be able to access our thinking as much as we should. We
Mhm.
tend to react more than respond. And so all of that cost starts to accumulate us over time.
It is so true because when you're overloaded, you're taxed, you're taking on too much, or you're trying to shift the load, that you're not thinking clear because
Not at
you're
all.
focused in all different areas. And when that happens, when you need to get things done, you don't really efficiently get them done, even more so because
Correct.
you're not in the moment. You're thinking about 5 steps forward. You're just kind of catching up all the time.
Yeah,
Plus, you're not having fun. You're not having
absolutely
fun.
right. Yeah. And your life is not harmonized. You take all that stress from one area of your life and it infiltrates other parts of your life,
Yep.
right? And it just creates this downward spiral that we don't really need. So we have to take a look at what systems and environments and structures, our use of time, our ability to create a team around us that can help balance some of that load so it's not all on ourselves, right? We come back to the intentional success system where we have reason for everything. Our values guide what we do. We have a vision for where we're going. We put a plan together of how we're going to handle all this. We organize our life in such a way where the organization and the structure now carries in a lot of that load, and we put people in place to help us do that.
What's different here when you look at people who are younger, they don't have the same work ethic. I'm not saying it's wrong at all, but an older generation had the keep trying hard, keep working hard, working hard, working hard. Younger generation, I'm not working so hard. More of a balance. It's got to be a balance.
That's
What
right.
are they doing differently in the compensation triangle? Both of these demographics, younger, older.
Yeah. So the newer generation understands the fact that their capacity is limited, and they put more emphasis and more planning on the conditions side of the triangle instead of the capacity side of the triangle. In other words, they structure their life differently so that the load is not on them personally as much.
Interesting. So let's go back to those three C's, the corners of the triangle again, just to make sure we're all on the same
Yeah, and let me
page.
show you what it
Ah,
looks
there we
like.
go.
So the conditions are the structure and the environment that should be carrying the load. So, for example, look at a suspension bridge. A suspension bridge has the cornerstones where all of the wires, for lack of a better term, are anchored, right? But if those anchors are not strong enough, the weight starts to go to the wires instead of the structure. The wires start to loosen and the bridge starts to become unstable.
Hmm.
Okay.
Would the conditions be something like your standards or your boundaries, things that, that kind of stuff?
Absolutely correct. So that's all part of it. So a lot of us, for example, haven't set the correct boundaries where we can allow ourselves to say no,
Hmm.
or not necessarily saying no, but say later, or say, let me fit that in here, right? Where they start to take on so much that their capacity starts to wane. They can't do it all. And so we have to wake up earlier. We have to work later. We have to strengthen ourselves a little bit more, where we start taking on all the load instead of letting our boundaries and our structure take some of that load.
Hmm. I heard something recently that many of us, and I can't think of the term, but essentially it is we are, our brains are so loaded from loose ends hanging out there. Oh, yeah, I
Yep.
got to take care of that. I didn't finish that over there. I got that going on over there. I got that going on there. And that, I guess that capacity in your mind is bogging us down because we can't function because we're it's almost like multitasking, but we are in a way.
No, it's absolutely true. We have so much in our minds that we're trying to remember and balance, where if we just created systems that took on some of that, right?
Mm.
Instead of having, uh, and you mentioned this before, and this is not a dig at you because we do it a lot. We got post-it notes all over our monitors and all over the walls, right? And that is a sort of an analogy or a symbol of what's going on in our brain. We've got all these post-it notes, all these thoughts going on at a time that are taking up a lot of our capacity. They're taking up a lot of our energy to where if we had one system where we put all that stuff and we know that it's going to be taken care of because we're organized well, we're
Yep.
structured well, we don't have to think about it anymore. We can let it go because we're putting the load on the system rather than our brain.
So in that situation, let's say you're dealing with all those floating things out there that haven't been finished. Um, just all of that going on. Where would that come into play within the compensation triangle?
Okay. So all of that is capacity based, right? That's on us personally. We're taking it on. We think, and how many capable people say this to themselves? I should be able to handle all this,
Oh yeah.
right?
and
And they
and
put
the
that expectation on themselves instead of saying, why should I be capable of doing all this? Where should that load really be put?
it's so true. And what I believe comes into play is self-defeat, where you feel like a loser. That I didn't get that done. I didn't get that done. Oh, even if you're not, you're it's in your mind. Subconsciously, you're
It is.
thinking, that you're a failure in some regard.
And isn't that a personal cost to us that
Yes.
accumulates over time?
Yeah. Because once that bank account of negativity starts building up, what happens from there? You that's your limiting belief.
Absolutely right. And it starts to accumulate over time. It then affects the way you think. It
Mm.
affects the way you process. You don't process as easily.
Yep.
You don't process as fast. Everything is heavier. Everything takes longer. And again, that starts to accumulate as a cost. It starts to affect our stress level. It starts to affect our emotional health.
Yep.
And then that starts to translate and accumulate in other areas of our lives.
Well, it can eventually turn into a hard cost, i.e., physical monetary compensation. Because let's say you are a salesperson and this is all going on for you, and you're feeling defeated because you didn't take care of this, you didn't take care of that because you weren't following the triangle. So now you're not going out there and pounding the pavement, if you will, like you used to.
Right?
And you
You
just,
give yourself excuses of
yes,
why you, right, why you
exactly.
can't do it.
And I,
Yep.
I can name a ton of people, especially newer real estate agents, where they feel defeated. Maybe this is a second job. And I can name all right now in one hand those in my world who are real estate agents that are afraid to go up to doors. And this is part of how it works. The
Yeah.
touch point. You go to the door. Hey, how you doing? I heard that you might be wanting to sell your house or others in the neighborhood. I figured I'd just check in, or even making that phone call. They freeze because
Yeah.
they feel defeated
Right.
because things are off balance within the triangle.
Absolutely right. They're not harmonized within themselves.
Yeah.
Their identity starts to wane, right? Their
Yep.
mindset starts to wane, and
Yes.
then it becomes an accumulated cost over time. I'll tell you personally how it affects people's personal lives and income and finances because 15 years ago, once a year for 5 years, I was in the hospital with a condition that the doctors could not identify. It was a condition where I had an infection that started in one part of my body and spread throughout my entire body. I was in the hospital intensive care for 10 days. They couldn't figure it out.
Wow.
It turned out that it was stress related, right?
Oh, I believe it.
And you think of the cost of not putting the compensation triangle in place, where I thought I had to do everything in my life and I had to do it well. And if I wasn't doing it well enough, it was on me.
Yep.
And that stress almost killed me.
I can totally relate to that. Ulcers. I
Right?
8 years ago, it got to the point I didn't know it was an ulcer. Got to the point where on my birthday, I was at the beach with my kids. And I'm like, I got to go to the hospital. I can't do this anymore. I
Yeah.
can't, I don't know what's going on with my stomach. Because of the anxiety of not knowing, now my blood pressure was up, never been. I felt like my eyes were going to pop out of my head. And
Yeah.
that's all it was. It was stress because at the time I took on more responsibility, different roles at what this particular job, waking up very early, not
Yeah.
sleeping well, renovating a backyard, some other personal stressors, all of that. Know exactly, in a different way, but in a very similar way.
Right.
And all of this came down to fear. And I'm sure it probably was that way with you. And what was my fear? It was like fear of if I mess this up and I lose one of these jobs or compensation goes away from this one or that one,
Yeah.
well, things are going to be different. And I want to make sure my family has the same quality of life. And blah,
Absolutely.
blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? There was no evidence of anything happening. It was all in my head. And
Absolutely
if I
right.
could say I've one regret that I look back, worrying about money.
Yeah.
I had no evidence to worry about it, but I
Yeah.
did. And I should have took
Sure.
mom's advice, which now I believe when I was younger, it was like, you're an old person. What do you know?
Of course.
Um, Love her. But she always said, it'll always work out. And it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but we put that on ourselves. We put that on
That's true.
ourselves.
And if we tie together the five shifts to the compensation triangle,
Yep.
we have to change our paradigm, our approach to the world,
Yeah.
right? And if
Wow.
we have this paradigm that says the world is hard, everything is work, it has to be this way, then what are we going to do about that? We're going to try harder because we know that that's the only way that it can be done. If it's to be done, I have to do it myself, right? How many managers do I coach in my management class who say, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself,
Yep.
right? That's their paradigm. And they take that capacity on personally, but not realizing connecting the dots of cause and effect, the overall cost to them over time by holding that paradigm and trying to maintain that capacity.
Mm. Thank you for your transparency, Joe. And it really reframes all of this. The program is amazing, and I'm working on it right now. I'm going to finish up one module in the next couple of
Excellent.
days. But this comes from real world experience. It's not just like you said, man, I'm going to make up a course and help people, whatever. No, this is you lived it. You lived
That's
it.
correct.
Wow. Mm,
Yeah. And I've been watching it in people's personal lives, in their family life, in their business life. It's the exact same thing. It's just multiplied when we put everything on top of each other.
yeah. And everything you're saying is so real and relatable to so many managers will say, yeah, I'll just do it myself. By the time I explain it to them,
Absolutely right.
well, guess what you just did? You took on more capacity.
Correct.
And that is inherently, because it's a triangle, going to affect the other areas, um,
Yep.
and may affect cost, which is
Yeah.
probably, one of the things you don't want it to affect, because as we identified, cost in many different areas.
Yeah, correct. Think
Hmm.
about the entrepreneur who starts a new business and thinks because they have all the knowledge, they have to do all the work,
Right.
right? They
Or they have
don't
the
put
vision.
systems in place
Yeah.
for their business that are not person dependent, right? Which is in our small business owners program, we talk about this, where we say, look, the business success is not based on your capacity. It's based on your ability to create systems and put them in place that are not single person dependent.
Hmm. Do you feel, just pivoting for a moment, that many people that come up with a vision for a business, solopreneurs, if you will, don't really have a clear vision? They think they do, but they really
Correct.
don't.
Well, they have and identify with them because when I first started my first training company, leaving Dale Carnegie, I had the same idea. Michael Gerber calls it the entrepreneurial seizure. When I think that I have the knowledge and the capacity to do it myself, so I don't have to work for somebody else, and I get all the revenue, I get all the accolades, everything is on me. What they don't realize is building a business and creating a sustainable business is more than just your ability to do the job,
Hmm.
right?
But it's a trap that we all fall into, and understandably so, because when you're starting out, you're careful about your finances.
Of
So
course.
instead of hiring somebody else to take care of this, or maybe, somebody over here to take care of one small piece, I have, a couple of friends that hire people in other countries through different platforms. There's many of them. Uh,
Absolutely.
and it's, you don't have to pay a lot and you get certain things done. But we
Correct.
look at, every penny, because I could do the, an extra hour. I'll take care of that myself, on and on and
Correct.
on and on.
Yep.
Well, what's going on there? You took on more capacity.
Yeah, and look what it did to cost, right? So what we're doing is we're compensating short-term cost for long-term cost effect. And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is we can pay $4 or $5 for a couple hours of work, $4 or $5 an hour for a couple hours of work to somebody else to take that load off of us. If we don't, we're doing it ourselves. What gets put behind that that starts to accumulate? And now we have to take on more responsibility. We have to work harder. We have to do everything. And again, that's accumulated cost for us. What if we become incapacitated, not fully, right? But we have a day where we go, I just can't take it anymore, and I need a day off. Well, what is that day off costing you, as opposed
Mm.
to the $20 that you would have spent for somebody else to do it?
So true. It's so true. And we don't want to admit it, and we don't want to see it. Um, but that's how it works. You really have deep perspective into all of this. You really do.
Appreciate that. I
Oh my
appreciate
gosh.
that.
And I even see it more, talking about your personal journey, back in the day. Um,
Yeah.
the systems work.
They
Even if
do.
I didn't do them, hearing it makes so
Yeah.
much sense. It crystallizes what's going on. I'm seeing in, even that the compensation triangle for me. I'm picturing, they got that. Well, that's over there. No,
Right.
don't want to admit it, but I have to admit it. The triangle's off balance.
That's
It's off
true.
balance.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Uh,
it creates imbalance and imperfection everywhere else in your life as well.
and then you wonder why some days you can't get out of bed.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we connect with you and the program? There's so many different ones that you offer.
Correct.
Um, I would even think a conversation might even be in place, or even just some emails, so somebody can really define what they're looking for, and you can direct them as to which module program would be the one for them.
Absolutely. And for this sake, I'm going to offer something to your listeners that I rarely do, right? For those who want to go to intentionalachievements.com, on my page, Meet the Founder, there is a button there to contact me on WhatsApp. I will give every person who contacts me on WhatsApp through that, who are listening to this program, a free 30-minute consultation about their life and how to put things in perspective.
Mm, okay. Triangle, cost. Can't put a price on that. You really can, because it's the information that you can get in that very short period of time could be a game changer to your life and everything you're trying to achieve. Love it. Intentionalachievements.com. Joe, I really, really mean this. I am so looking forward to working on the program over this weekend because I know I have time. I'm not, my capacity is low.
There you go.
And because intentionally for the holidays, where I
Yeah.
can really put the focus and really enjoy absorbing all the information. I did start. I got refocused because I had too much capacity at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so well done in terms of how the information is put out there. It's to the point. There's not a lot of slop is the Merriam-Webster dictionary word of the year. It's
Right.
with AI slop.
Yeah.
That does not exist here. It does not. It's fantastic and to the point. Thank you for all the insight today. The triangle, it's real. It
Yeah.
totally is.
Thank you very much. The program that you're talking about is called the 5 Fundamentals of Intentional Living. And we have a coupon code called Global. For anybody who wants to take the program alongside you, it'll give you a $100 discount on the program.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for all the insight today, Joe. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Same to you. And
Thank you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.